My name is Mike Nielsen. I'm the VP of Operations for Nielsen Marketing Services. We're an insurance-specific marketing company, and we specialize in generating leads and new business development opportunities for MGAs, wholesalers, insurance carriers, and primarily independent retail agencies. And we do this through a couple of different modalities. One, and primarily we do it through telemarketing, SEO, social media, and website development. Today I'm here to talk to you about telemarketing specifically and how it can be utilized as an effective tool to generate new business opportunities for your agency. Traditionally, there are two types of marketing that are referred to in marketing circles. The first is push marketing and the second is pull marketing. And the two kind of work hand in hand, and any decent marketing operation will have both strategies employed to some degree or another because they work back and forth with one another. Pull marketing is a type of marketing where you're trying to pull the prospect into your company and have them essentially come to you passively without you having to go out and grab them. Push marketing, alternatively, is a type of marketing where you're essentially trying to take your product and bring it to the prospect and make them realize that they need to utilize it. So pull marketing, a couple of examples of pull marketing would be search engine optimization, social media marketing, and search engine marketing like Google AdWords or Bing advertisements. So utilizing those types of marketing is a great way to have prospects find you through search or through, or rather find you passively. The only drawback to these types of marketing is that they require a long-term investment and are less targeted. It's much more difficult to target larger industry-specific clients that the traditional independent agency might target. And so if you would like to learn more about this new type of marketing, the digital marketing sector, whether it be SEO or social media marketing or having a new website designed for you, then you can visit our booth out in the convention room. For this segment, we're going to talk more about push marketing and traditional marketing modalities that allow you to target specific lists that are of a specific size and will offer you more of a short-term benefit and the short-term ROI. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Jeff Nielsen, our president, and let him tell you a little bit more about telemarketing and how it can be implemented within your agency.
Thank you, Mike. How are you guys doing today? Thank you very much for attending our presentation. And yes, I'd love to speak to you about telemarketing as one of the modalities of marketing for independent insurance agencies. My name's Jeff Nielsen, as Mike said and introduced me, and I'm the president and founder of Nielsen Marketing Services. And just to give you a little bit more background, we've been around this December 2013 will be our 25th year. Actually, December 18th to be exact. So we have a little bit of experience with this, and we do cater to the independent agency, as Mike said, but more importantly, we deal with the national brokers, the regional brokers, and the independent agents, and of all different sizes and scopes when it comes to B2B marketing for commercial lines. What I thought might be a good idea to go over is, telemarketing in some cases, depending on who you are and where you are, can have a bad rap. And it started, if you look up and research telemarketing, back in the 70s. And I think AT&T really is the one that really brought it to head. And we were fortunate enough to niche into telemarketing and bring it to the insurance industry so that we could help all of you guys get an ROI on it. And so what I thought would be an awesome idea is to kind of give you guys the ability to back into certain goals and objectives when it comes to developing new business. And when you think about this either from a producer standpoint, because many agencies just might be an agency owner who is the producer. And then there's a lot of agencies that have multiple producers. So I'll simplify this, and you guys can do your own math, depending on where you're located, what you want to target, and what your goals and objectives are, both from a premium standpoint or a revenue. I'll speak in premium today, just for to make it simple and easy. And one of the examples I think is well, first of all, a good place to start in telemarketing before I jump into new business goals is think about what's indigenous to your area. So is your area a county? Is it one county, two counties? Is it 7 contiguous counties? Is it a state? So what area? So from a demographic standpoint, you want geography, you want the SIC code. And when you think about SIC codes, you want to think about 2 digits, 4 digits, 6 digits, 8 digits, because an asbestos abatement contractor is an 8-digit SIC code. And that really might be what your carrier wants. And speaking of carriers, when was the last time you sat down with your carriers that are actually looking at these submissions and asked them, what type of business are you actually not declining right now? And you know, that changes. That's a movie. That's like trying to change the tires for a NASCAR driver while he's actually driving. Right now, the market is turning from soft, and I'm not going to say hard, but it is getting, depending on the class of business and where you're located, it is starting to turn. So it's really vital and important, while that's changing, to sit down with your underwriters at the carriers that you represent to find out what they want. What is it that they're looking for? Another thing you want to be careful of from the carrier standpoint is change of underwriters. That could be something that's a high turnover position. So if there's a new underwriter that's actually looking at these submissions, try to meet with them on a regular basis. It also puts a little skin in the game, because on month 12 or 13 or 18, and you go to look at what business was declined versus what business was written, guess what? You sat down with those underwriters. They actually told you the size, the class, and the geography. So put a little bit of that new business marketing piece on their plate as well. I know they're paying you commission, but that's a lot of work and investment that you're putting into your producers or doing it on your own. And I think that's an important piece that's missed in the telemarketing new business. Another thing that you might want to actually look at is, before you dive into the telemarketing, is what are you using to maintain and manage the data? So when you talk about data from telemarketing, there's things that need to be developed. An expiration date by line. Is Vertafort, is X-Dimensional, is Instar, are all these systems capable of creating custom fields and maintaining email addresses, titles, contacts, extensions, direct lines, SIC codes, along with it? Every SIC code has a description. Can that contact management or CRM handle that type of data? When it comes to, SIC codes are really the standard when it comes to target marketing within your local area. And that's what most agencies will use to develop a business list. And they were derived back in, during World War II, believe it or not. So in the event that we needed to find a rubber manufacturer for our government, they could actually go find these manufacturers and quickly get product overseas. And that's really where they bloomed into the standardization. So those are some tips from the list development, in-house management. And the last thing I think I'd like to leave you with in terms of the X-dating piece before we get into the new business goal is, what are you doing to maintain constant contact with these decision makers you connect with? Get them on an email platform, drip marketing or direct mail. Do something to stay in touch with them. So real quickly, let's just go to the whiteboard so you have an understanding of methodology and a metric you can use with a producer or yourself. If you have 2,000 business names, okay, then what you want to do is you want to put into play where either a producer or an in-house person, maybe it's a CSR where they're on a certain compensation, makes at least 3 dials on average per business name. Now look, it's on average. I realize some of the names are going to be out of business. In today's economy, that's going to happen. Some of the employee size may not be 10. They still might have gone down to 5. That's okay. These are averages that I'm putting up here for you. But if you do the math and you multiply 2,000 names by 3 dials each, that's a total of 6,000 dials. So your total dials on that list so far would be 6,000. A decent telemarketer gathering the type of data that I just shared with you, expiration date by line, number of autos, incumbent agent, incumbent carrier, title, extension, renewal date, they should be making about 25 dials per hour, okay? So that's an hourly type of number that you're looking for. Now, if you have a call accounting system, that's awesome. Then you can actually measure the ROI of that particular person making the phone call. If it's a producer, use a tick sheet. Just make yourself a tick sheet by the time you start to finish, and then you've got a good measurement, or if you're on track on the 25 dials. Now, if you do that, the math there is you've got 240 total hours that it's going to take to get through a list of 2,000 business names. In today's marketplace, now this depends on the class of business. And I'm going to repeat this. This depends on the class of business and the size. Anything under 49 employees, and let's say 5 to 49 employees, you'll average about 1.5 leads or X dates per hour. Now, what this doesn't include in this hit ratio are doctors, apartment owners, professionals like maybe large law firms, hospitals, hotels. Think about something that's really difficult to get through to a decision maker. This is an average of a 9 to 5 type individual under 49 employees. That's the best way for me to say that. That's what you should be yielding and looking for when it comes to X dates that we just talked about. So with that said, if you take the 240 and you're going to average 1.5 per hour, that's about 360, and I'll call these X dates. Now, I like to call these qualified leads based on the criteria that I just shared with you on the data that we're actually developing on behalf of our customers. So this is really what you would consider a qualified lead to jumpstart a producer's sales cycle, okay? Now, if you have 360 pre-qualified X dates, we know they're underwriting friendly. We know they're commission friendly because we met with the carrier and they told us the employee size and what they are not declining. And in this scenario, I'm using an average of $25,000 account, just to be clear. That's the premium. That's a $25,000 account. So with 360 X dates, if you're doing drip marketing or direct mail and you're staying in touch with them, because every renewal date is going to be different. They're all going to come up different times of the year. There's just no way they're all going to fall. Now, with that said, July and January, most likely, I'll put money on it, will be your most prevalent in terms of renewal dates. Okay. But with that said, if you keep your name in front of these folks, your producer or your in-house telemarketer should be able to convert 8 to 10% of those into an appointment, which would give you 36 appointments. And again, the timeline on these appointments will range depending on how the X dates fall. So when you put a program like this together, think of it as in like an 8 to 12 month window. That's the best medicine I can give to you without really knowing an actual X date. Now, if you get 36 appointments, you're not going to sell every single appointment. That's just probably not reality. So let's say you get a 30%, I'll be conservative, 30% close ratio. That would give you 11 sales, okay? So if you got 11 sales out of these 36 appointments, right, using an average of $25,000 in premium, because we did that based on an employee size. And the reason I talk about employee size versus revenue, in today's economy, an employee size is much more accurate than a revenue. And even with that said, the employee size sometimes is not always going to be true. The data is probably going to be anywhere from 68 to 75% accurate. It could have that much of a window. So there's your sales goal of $275,000. So this could be a producer. And again, that could be a 12-month window. So now what we're going to talk about is the X dates that were developed over here. Now there's two ways for you to do this. You can actually have the producer do it. You can have an in-house telemarketer do it. Or candidly, you can just outsource it to a firm like ours. Either way works, and they both work well if you do it right. But the bottom line is these X dates need to be called. And so if these X dates are being nurtured and managed properly from a drip standpoint, you want to make about 5 dials on average because you know the decision maker or makers. pretty much gotten an email on 40% of them if you do it right. And that will mean 1,800 total dials on this list. So if you're averaging about 16 dials per hour, because the level of conversation at this point is a little different than actually gathering data, because you're trying to set an appointment, it's closer to the relationship. That's the best way for me to explain it. I'll talk a little bit about the selling cycle in a minute that you're responsible for. That will give you 113 additional hours that you actually need to implement into a telemarketing campaign. So what you're going to walk away from here today is basically you need to figure out how to get a list called 2,000 names in your geography with 353 hours. Okay, that's what you should yield. You can plug your own numbers in here. The other thing I think that's important that I'd like to bring light to is depending on, look, if you're going to get into telemarketing, you want to look at this from a long-term standpoint. Don't get into telemarketing if you're going to dabble in it. Don't put one foot in the boat and one on the dock. Get into it and stay in it for at least 3 to 5 years. Okay? And think of your own book of business. Think of the accounts that you've had on your book of business on an average of 8 to 10 years. Think of your biggest accounts. You probably didn't put them on unless they were a friend, a relative, or somebody that was referred to you easily and quickly, right? So it might have taken you 2 or 3 years to get the big account. So when you look at telemarketing, I like to look at it in a funnel, okay? So if you break the sales process down into 4 or even 3 sessions, let's break it into 4, okay? This is phase 1. This is phase 2, phase 3, and 4. Phase 1, from a telemarketing standpoint, is what our organization does when we work with independent agents. So everything you're seeing up here from this standpoint of gathering needs, and to an extent means if they have money, and pre-qualifying with hot buttons and data, that's what a telemarketer's job is. If you're successful with selling the appointment, it's because your producers, or you as an agency owner, you're doing all the qualifying and the understanding and the specificity in terms of cost justifying, and actually understanding what coverage they have, what they don't have, and of course their budget. That's the job of a producer. If you guys do all that correctly from a presentation standpoint, and you get a blessing from the submission to the carrier, you've earned the right to close that business. And typically, it actually closes itself if you do phase 2 and 3 properly, because all the objections are going to come up during phase 2 and phase 3 in terms of you trying to gather and glean and take that business. So hopefully what I've talked to you about today gives you a better understanding of the job of a telemarketer, whether it be in-house or an outside service like ourselves, and hopefully your salespeople will sell more business. Thank you again. Have a good day.